Enterprise Morning, a TV, a special right here on Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. Today we'll be taking a look at the alleged U.S. aid fund for terrorism, including our own Boko Haram in Nigeria. And we have it that the U.S. Congressman Scott Perry has said the U.S. Aid Agency for International Development funded terrorist organizations including Boko Haram. Perry, a Republican representing Pennsylvania, made the claim during the inaugural hearing of the Subcommittee on Delivering on Government Efficiency on Thursday. The session titled The War on Waste, Stamping Out the Scourge of Improper Payments and Fraud, focused on alleged misappropriation of taxpayers' funds. Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? With $697 million annually, shipments of cash funds in Madras, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS, Khorasan, terrorist training camps, that's what it's funding, Perry said. U.S. President Donald Trump has previously called for the closure of U.S. aid, accusing the agency of corruption in a post on his Truth Social platform. I have with me Innocent Aduluba, a communicator, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so very much, Innocent, for being here.
Thank you, sir.
All right, beautiful. Now let's have this conversation because it's trending all over the social media, the new media and traditional also. And it's a very big one. The U.S. aid has been around for a very long time. And let's not forget, it's been doing awesome jobs, right? Superficially, like we have said. In Nigeria alone, it employs about 28,000 people that work for it. Across the world, same story. But of course, this discovery is more like a dent to the glorious work the U.S. aid has done. Speak to us.
Well, I think AIDS, donating of AIDS is welcome. Is a good thing. It lifts people out of poverty. Kudos to the donating countries for that charitable humanitarian. But you cannot see let me say, a rich country, a well-run country, a well-organized country going, all celebrating reception of AIDS. I don't think they give AIDS, Germany receive AIDS from any country. I don't think Switzerland receive AIDS from any country. Maybe I'm wrong. So it now draws the line. AIDS is maybe a function of a relationship between the haves and the have-nots. And that relationship will be that of subservience. It's defined by the global saying of he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So the country receiving AIDS must be suffering deficit somewhere.
Leadership deficit or material deficit? What exactly?
Possibly, much of the countries, let me come home, that gets this AIDS are predominantly African countries.
The Southwest, that is?
Predominantly African countries, maybe Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, those and these are countries that are massively rich with resources, human and natural resources. And most often than not, you find the presence of the donor countries in the country they give aid, harnessing the resources of those, should I call them the donee, the donor, if I should call it that. So where you have vast resources in Congo Democratic Republic, they get AIDS. They also have their donors in their country mining, harnessing their resources. Another problem is Africa is an aid receiving continent. And so where you have the European Union having meetings, defining their destiny, you have African unions, the African Union, a large part of what they set out to achieve over the years is still going in grammar cycle. And a large, should I use that word, economic salvation to the African Union. The African Union looks outside the continent for economic salvation. And mind you, where that is coming from, there are stringent conditionalities. So the aid looks free on the outside, but I think something something gives in. Something gives. And that's why I say there are deficits. You know, when I am impecunious and somebody is there to meet my financial need, one of the first things I'll do is to bow to the person. Even where there are no conditions. This is my helper, my benefactor. And so, but if self-sufficient, without pride, I don't have any reason to kowtow to what whims and caprices, as they would say, you have. So I think the aid is a maxed gift.
Now, looking at it as a mass gift, of course, you said that the donor countries, of course, come with various interests at hand. And of course, when we talk about those who receive, most of them are in the global south.
Yes.
And it's, of course, Nigeria is one of them. Talking about the innate interest some of the donor countries have, of course, we've pointed out that alleged sum from that donation go to funding of terrorism in different parts of the world, ISIS and so on. But of course, Boko Haram was mentioned in that particular list. Would you have believed that U.S. aid, of course, that feeds the hungry, provides shelter for those that have not, would at the same time contradict itself by funding terrorism that kills those that they feed and provide shelter for?
You know, there's a lot of back and forth in some of these things. If you want to start with Boko Haram, for instance, the name is not friendly. The name and what they do. You know, there are no stamped figure, but if we were talking about range, they've cost more than 300,000 deaths to women and children. I think there's a name they call that. Like it could be more, but that's the
average.
That's the manageable number. That's the decent number we can give. And then there are nearly millions. Let me just say millions of people are displaced because when a place is ravaged and the assailants are not letting them rest, they move against their wish. Now, they've also contributed to terrible regional food crisis and famines. So, if these kind of people are being funded, according to Mr. Grant, I think I got his name, by a particular government, it means the interest of that government within this conversation, within the havoc caused by Boko Haram, if what Grant has said is true, then to that extent, Boko Haram is causing what I would say is destabilizing the government, is an agent of dehumanization, and they are being funded by another country. To what purpose? Exactly,
because that is the question. To what purpose exactly? Because I can't understand how that you it's just logically saying this. You help bring up a child, and you become the man in charge of killing the child. Which reminds me, the things fall apart. Okonkwo and the boy, of course, he was raising and ended up being the one that that killed the boy. So it looks the same. So when we talk about this with respect to international politics and the interest of the West, particularly United States over the years, speak to us on that matter.
The world has gone unipolar with the collapse of communism. I think the last Russian president, Mikhail Gorbachev, in 1989, oversaw what was the last Soviet Union, where almost, over a dozen of countries were carved out of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. You talk about the Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia, Moldova, Georgia, all of them. So the world went unipolar with the United Nations being the sole global power so to speak. And to that extent, you've heard comments of the former president in the hunt for during the Gulf War, saying the United States are global police. So it sometimes makes me wonder which is more powerful, which has the higher sanction, the United States of America or the United Nations.
Exactly.
Because it is established that the most powerful man in the world is the President of the United States.
Definitely.
But I would think a committee of nations, including powerful nations nearly at the level of the United States, should produce a most powerful person in the Secretary General.
Definitely. True.
Of the United Nations. So
at what point did we have that reverse? At what point in our history did we experience the reverse, where the United States took over governance of the world rather than the United Nations?
But you can see now, for instance, this is recent history. The United Nations Security Council has ordered Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel to stop the attacks in Gaza. They've held up to 2 meetings leading to the elections of, before the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Did Israel stop? What has that same body, the United Nations, International Criminal Court and all of what have they done to Israel? Why can't they hold Israel for not respecting that high injunction? Because Israel is backed in weapon supply and diplomatic friendship by the United States. Just one country. It's like the US against the world. So, and the Israel is emboldened. I want to imagine a situation. Of course, it's wrong for Hamas on October 7 to attack Israel. Do you understand? Israel became a victim of Hamas aggression. That's established as wrong. But the continuous killing of women, children, there are good examples, there are good reasons. The terrorists are hiding among the clinic. They're hiding among the schools. Yeah, but women, children, innocently, families, resources. People are dying.
Yes, because the reason that, of course, we are, taking this outside of the circle, going to Hamas and Israel and all, it's simply because of the fact that United States has wielded so much power around the world, which of course the Usaid is equally, part of it, because it's actually very strange that as much as the United States supports its biggest ally, which is Israel, the same United States through the Usaid provides food for those that have been killed, which is equally very contradictory. But with Donald Trump taking away the power, or totally dissolving the Usaid, do you think the nature of the United States, wielding its powers all over the world, it's there? Because most of the time, it's only when they give through the Usaid that they are able to have so much power over nations around the world.
Like I said, when somebody gives you aid, you will automatically be aligned to that person. You become their friend. And when you are friends with that person, you cannot go against one or two of their policies. And in this instance, the topic is wide. We're talking about AID, the USAID, AID,
yes,
or USAID. But the topic is vast. You look at let's go francophone now. In Africa here, you can see, do we call it revolution or uprising of Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, all of them under the umbrella of French protection and aid. But what is coming out of Niger, Mali and co, how their resources are dominated and they are not the direct beneficiary, Some of these resources enjoy satellite benefits. rather than the municipality where they are domiciled. So the aid thing is the voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau, and all of that. So that where I'm going is, I've just given you instances where the decent figure of over 300,000 people killed, talking about Boko Haram, millions displaced, Nigeria's economy plundered, government destabilized. So how can another country consciously have it as a policy to be destabilizing another country, so to speak?
That is the root of the
because Mr. Grant spoke in public, he was not hiding.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, we have a Minister of Foreign Affairs, we have an ambassador in the US, we have a president, we have presidential spokespersons, there is a National Orientation Agency. Who is saying what? Who is responding? The trouble we have here is sometimes the government tacitly allows passivity to rule. So we hear it yesterday, we discuss it today, go around vendors, people who have not eaten are energetically arguing this. By the third day, it's a tone down. By the fourth day, those hungry newspaper voluntary analysts are looking for what to eat. By the fifth day, the news goes away. And we are fine, waiting for the next episode that will, so in this kind of thing, with this kind of information, not coming from a Nigerian, coming from Mr. Grant, we are recipients of US aid. Do we have the muscle to investigate the US?
But lucidly, a CDS, a Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, while he granted an interview with Al Jazeera, said it very clear that he is thinking that Boko Haram gets international funds, which of course, he didn't mention clearly. He wasn't very explicit that it was the US aid. It was after that particular appearance on Al Jazeera, and when the Republican man talked about this particular issue, that people started, routing their minds back towards CDH Christopher Musa did say. So the question is, do you think that those in government over the years knew of this fact, but because it was coming from the United States of America, they just allowed it slide?
General Musa is in a bureaucracy to the tune of hierarchy, taking orders and the rest of it. He is a military man. The bureaucracy is the civil service, all right. But I'm putting this in the order format, red tape, order, hierarchy. So it's not even Musa who should be first to be responding. Is he the direct recipient of US aid in Nigeria? Do you understand? There's a government setting. We even have is she still the one, Honorable Abike Dabiri?
Yeah, Abike Dabiri, yes.
All of this. There are institutions, parastatals, ministries, where as things are happening, they are talking to us. We have great lecturers, professors out there in public and international affairs, international relations, political science, who can better educate Nigerians. But my point is, does Nigeria have the muscle as a collector of aid to investigate the US following that comment from Mr. Grant? Because the Boko Haram have openly told the world, told Nigeria, that they are agents of evil. Yes. You kidnap today how many hundreds of women? Tomorrow, how many hundreds of girls? Tomorrow, you plunder farmers. A region as endowed as the Lake Chad Basin in Borno State, Nigeria, is a dreaded region. That is a haven were it to be in the Middle East. And you see the efforts of the Emirates kingdoms irrigating deserts to generate it. So it's appalling. It tells you the dirty side of global politics. If you look at the distance from the US to Nigeria, and they can have this grip, according to the comments from Mr. Grant, you wonder. You wonder where we are friends with countries allegedly funding enemies to destabilize us.
The nation.
It's appalling. It's unbelievable.
Very, very true. It is not just unbelievable, but truly despicable, because of we do not know how this will go. Unfortunately, some people have been caught in the crossfire. Aisha Yusufu, of course, is about town trying to defend her group, the Bring Back Our Girls, campaign, which of course equally has been alleged to get funding from the Usaid, which she have equally denied that claim, saying that all the funding for the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, the Chibok girls, were done by members and not by the Usaid. It's a developing story. But of course, on Enterprise Television, we promise to keep you abreast of every
And I must say, sorry,
Yes,
please, that all of these are the offshoot of the recent executive order by President Donald Trump to halt foreign aids to African countries, as thousands of employees of at the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, have commenced compulsorily. So, on the flip side, agencies in Nigeria are shrinking, laying off staff. I mean, their means have gone. But out there in the U.S., alongside the activities of the Ministry of Government Efficiency run by Elon Musk, are alleging corruption within that cycle as a reason why presidential fire Trump, President Donald Trump.
Yes.
Who knows if these are some of what they may have, their findings. Who knows? Because I think with globalization, we should be chasing more of collaborations in global trade than using the other route to destabilize another government.
Nation. I just truly hope that this will not affect the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, which of course has done so much in taking care of epidemics in Nigeria.
Through aid?
Yeah, through aid.
But
like
if
the
you
US
look at
aid
the
too.
situation where that gentleman was denied visa to Canada.
Yes, Christopher Musa.
Yes. We should just follow the advice of the statesman Nuhu Ribadu. He says we should just fix Nigeria.
Of course, we have the capacity,
So
but of course, the will to do it is
the
where
disease
the problem
control
is.
parastatal without that aid, objectively not fix. I mean, we can do without that aid. We can. The resources are in this country.
Yes, of course. If the transparency is actually there, because our politicians have everything it takes to make this work, rather than concentrating on their well-being and, of course, living the frivolous lives. If we, of course, put together most of this money and plunge it into helping ourselves, we necessarily do not need aid from other nations of the world. But most importantly, our sovereignty is the most important thing. He who pays the piper dictates the tune. But when you refuse the payments from any donor, then of course you can hold yourself high and say, hey, you can talk to me, I make the call, and you have to obey me. That is what I think should be the best way to go. Thank you so very much, Innocent Adoluba.
My pleasure.
Really do appreciate you. All right, people, that's just about the time we have for our TV special for today. Promise you to bring more of specials like this, digging into very important topics, trendy, topical, that we really need to talk about for today. Do well to visit us. You can always rewatch this on our social media platforms, especially YouTube, when you, of course, go to Enterprise TV News.com and equally Enterprise TV. Thank you so very much for your time. We truly do appreciate you. My name is Henry Gwebik. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.